All right, I think we're good. I got the notification.
Yep.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Inside the GEFA. Today we got winningest coach in GEFA history, Brent Melhorn, uh, President James Simerson, and owner of the Hazleton Mustangs, Billy Minnick, and myself, Joshua Neal. I play for the Nightmare. Uh, Simerson, you got anything before we jump into the games?
Mm-mm. You're hosting, buddy.
All right. I guess we'll start off, get this one over with quick. Warriors traveling to the Crusaders. Warriors win 78-0.
As I said before we came on here, when it's 78-0, there's not a whole lot to talk about. All as I'm saying is the Crusaders are just, they're running through that inaugural first season that we've all been down on, taking those beatings. Like, it is what it is, man. It's just a learning experience for them. Try to get better week to week, and you kind of wrap your mind around what it takes to win in this league and be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I
The
can speak
Warriors,
firsthand from the Crusaders. I mean, we played them 2 weeks ago. They have a couple guys over there that have potential. They played to the last whistle. But there's also a couple guys over there that all they want to do is talk instead of play. Once they can wean that out, and put more pieces together, I think they'll be successful. I mean, they have great numbers even when they travel to us, and that's 4 hours away. They have the pieces. I just think they need to, discard, take your beatings. We all know how it is coming into this league. Take your beatings and just keep it pushing.
I
yeah, and
think
I
they
mean,
got out of the Crusaders coming into this. I mean, granted, yes, they lost 78-0, but on top of it, they're not losing people. Like most teams, they're getting beat 60 points and all that stuff. They're staying around. They're trying to learn. They're still working on parts that they need to know. They're learning what they need to, and I think they're coming around. I mean, it's not going to be this year. Honestly, it's not going to be this year. You're not going to see a full turnaround on them. But
Nah.
what you do see is them staying together as a team. And for a first year team taking beatings like that, I think that's good for them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they have some pieces. That number 74, their center, he he could block, man. He's a big boy. He knows what he's doing. But he doesn't have help next to him. You know, the quarterback takes a beating, but he shows up every week. They have guys. I think they have a good head on their shoulders, and I think that in the next couple of years, they'll start picking it up.
I think their owner Drew, though, he kind of already, he's already had a taste of it. Like he kind of knew what to expect. You know what I mean? So like that's usually what the first year is in this league. I mean, I've seen a million first year teams come in here. Some of them don't even make it a whole season. You know what I mean? But the teams that stay around and they learn and they take those beatings usually come back stronger the second season. So, if like James was saying, like they're keeping all their guys together every week, like they got a full roster. You know what I mean? They're showing up 4 hours away, 30 deep. Like
Yeah,
hell, we got teams that have been in the league 6, 7 years that don't show up to an away game 30 deep. You know what I mean? So
yep,
like
I mean,
it is. Just take
tell
just
for
take
me,
your lumps and get ready for the next tour of duty.
yeah.
I mean, here was a big tell for me. Like they lost what 66-18 last week.
Hmm.
They had problems at their last home game against the Buffaloes. They came back with a turf field at a high school, had everything set up the way it needed to be. Like it's considering they just got beat 66-18 the week before, and you're coming back with a paying for a turf field because you're getting that for free. And having people showing up for that says a lot for their organization.
Yeah, I mean, they got the motto as a new team, field regulations with some lines and some chains, and goes a long way.
I mean, the
So,
other team in this group, the Warriors, on the other hand, I mean, they've been playing great football the last couple of weeks. You know
So
what I mean? Like they
I
go
was
ahead,
just
Billy.
gonna say that, Brent. Sorry. I think once I see the film, it'll all make sense. But I feel like this is the Warriors team that we kind of expected. I did see a picture that they put on social media that all of Gary's weapons got into the end zone. And I mean, you guys know what kind of receiver Z10 is. Joe Toe Tap. I mean, he comes in with big catches and big games. To get that offense moving in that direction, I mean, yeah, I mean that puts them right where we expected them to be. No,
I think they had a rough start to the season. Like, I mean, it was a brutal game against the Wildcats. They were winning by 3 scores. They choked that away. They get a home opener against the Vikings, and they kind of took their lump in that one. And, I mean, I'm sure in some capacity, yeah, there was probably some frustrations going on inside house. That's just natural with a team that's used to being up at the top of the standings, coming out, taking 2 on the chin right out of the gate. That's tough. But like I said, they rebounded nicely. They've been playing good football the last weeks. If you're watching the film, you can see that they're gelling. Their defense has been playing pretty solid all year.
Their corners
But
are good, man. Their corners
yeah,
are
their
good.
offense is really starting to work that, and like the receivers and Gary are all on the same page. Malachi's out there torching people. Like, I mean,
It,
they got a good system right now, and it's starting to oil itself up.
yeah, and you can look at the first 2 weeks for them and say, they lost, and what were you looking at? Gary did not play bad in those games, and when you give him time to sit back there, he's going to pick you apart. He's a hell of a quarterback, and that's what happened this week, man. They couldn't get no pressure on him, and he stood back there and made plays all day long.
Now,
Yeah,
let
I
me
mean,
ask you this.
essentially, that's
Number
a
two,
matchup of
Carson.
David versus Goliath.
Now, let me ask you this. Number 2, Carson from the Warriors. Is he the front runner for defensive player of the year?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw he had another pick, so he's I think up to like 4 or 5 interceptions on the year. I think. I mean,
This is the thing
he
with
makes
him.
a
When
lot
you
of
watch him,
tackles.
yeah, when you watch him play and you watch film on him, their defense is a lot of they're off. They don't press a lot. And when you watch film, you're like, well, we could take the underneath stuff, or the guy makes plays. He covers ground. I mean, he's a great athlete. You can make the catch at 4 yards, and he's coming up to make that tackle at 4 yards. And if the ball's thrown in his vicinity, I mean, when they played the Vikings, there was a ball. Any other team that gets played against, that's a touchdown. He made an interception on the 1 yard line or something like that. That anybody else that's a touchdown. The kid just plays ball. And the guy on the other side makes plays too. They click. They just they started rough, but this is definitely the Warriors that everybody expected. I
They
mean,
got a D lineman
besides,
that's imposing his will a little bit too
yeah,
lately. He's really coming on strong the last couple weeks.
yeah, he has a nasty
I think
move,
his
man.
name's Michael Clark. Michael Clark, I think
Yeah,
is his name.
yeah, his nasty, bro. He comes off the edge and it's like an 11-man tat where he gets real low to the ground, and if you don't get your hands on him, he beats you every time. And if you get your hands on him, he spins back inside. The kid's an athlete. They have athletes in the right spot. They're not huge, but they're clicking now. And now it's when they need to click. You could take those early bumps.
Yeah, you definitely want to back half the season strong. Obviously, man, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Anything else about this? I mean, this was
Nah,
kind of expected, to be honest.
yeah,
I guess we'll go next to the other one that was kind of not really close. We got the Raptors traveling to the Vikings. Vikings win 48-6. Uh, I didn't see film on this, but I mean, numbers don't lie. It looked like a rough
yeah,
outing. But going into Mova, it's probably a 3-hour third quarter. So, uh, but I can't speak much on it. I don't know if anybody else has any insight talking to Thor or anybody from over there, but
no, I didn't see this game either. But there was a tragic incident that happened Friday night with a player from their team, from the Raptors team. And then they're on the road for. I mean, that's probably a good 3.5 hour drive for them.
yeah,
So you know what I mean, like just mentality wise going into that. You know what I mean, with heavy hearts. You know what I mean? On a long drive against. I mean, let's be honest, they're front running right now for Keystone Bowl champ. So you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
Plus, they were
maybe it
missing.
wasn't. Maybe the beating was a little bit more than expected, but I mean, I'm really not surprised that it was a 40-point win. I
I mean,
maybe would
if
have
you watch
expected the Raptors
film,
to put up more points.
they're struggling up front. I mean, they played well against the Warriors. What was it, last week?
Yeah.
They definitely gave the Warriors a good game, but up front they're struggling. And that Vikings D line's no joke. So without even watching film, I have a funny feeling that Jimmy Warner lived in that backfield. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, especially when you're missing at least 3 offensive linemen.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's anytime you go against the Vikings D line, missing your lineman, it's not going to be a good day. Plus, they sat Tanner White, their quarterback. He's been banged up, so they sat him. So it's trying to get
I
other
didn't know that.
place to play, and it's
Yeah, that's what I said, man. It's
especially when
just,
you travel 3+ hours to a game, missing key players. It's going to be a rough outing.
Yeah, I mean they got hit with the injury bug too. I mean they lost a key player before the season even started.
Yeah.
One of their best players, I'm pretty sure, broke his hand. Uh,
plus
they
they've cleaned up some roster spots on their team. Probably some pretty talented guys on their roster that just didn't fit what they were doing. You know what I mean? And they had to move on from that. So they're still trying to work out the bugs. I mean, I think the last 2 seasons in general, just off the top of my head, I think they've been struggling offensively up front and at the quarterback spot. And we all know in the 8-man game, like you need to have a solid quarterback, because if you don't have a solid quarterback, it's going to be tough sledding out there.
Yep.
Like it's tough to run in this league. You're usually outnumbered in the box. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of space. It's not an 11-man ball. You don't have 25 yards. You know what I mean, between hash marks and shit like that. Like you don't have that much field to work with.
Oh yeah.
So, it's more of a predominantly passing league, and when you struggle to protect the quarterback and your quarterback struggles to produce passes, clean passes, on-time passes, accurate passes because he's constantly under pressure, you're going to get what you get.
Yeah. Anybody got anything?
Nah.
All right, we'll jump into the next one. Nightmare traveled to the Miners and win 38-32.
It's a good game. It's a good game. Miners started off strong. They came out first, drew first blood, at least from the film that I saw. Nightmare answered right back. And that's kind of how it went. I mean, one team would score, the other team would answer. And I think the big turning point of the game, as far as relative to the outcome, was the interception, the pick six that the Nightmare got right before halftime. And I think that kind of changed the complexion of how that game was going. They came out second half. Nightmare had a chance to increase the lead 2 scores. They didn't finish the job. Miners had a chance to come back and take the lead from them. Didn't do it. That's kind of how it went back and forth. I mean, pretty much the Nightmare controlled the game after that pick six. I felt like they kind of got out in front and stayed out in front. Like, were there chances for the Miners to come to win that game? Absolutely. They just couldn't do the job when it needed to be done. Their wideouts made some hellacious catches on the sidelines in that game. Like, a couple of times I thought their quarterback threw it out of bounds, and this dude just comes out of nowhere. Number 11, I think, on the one play. I think 23 made an insane catch on the sidelines. Like, the Miners are in their second year, but they still are trying to, build their team and get things going the right direction.
I mean, we could say the Miners are still a new team, but let's be honest, they're not the same team.
At first.
Yeah,
right.
They're definitely not the same team as last year. They're making leaps and bounds from what they were.
I felt like this was the best game that I've seen them play on film all season. Like, they definitely look like they're starting to figure some stuff out, especially on offense. And their quarterback made some great runs and some key situations for first downs. Yeah, I mean, they fought literally the whole game. Like, and you could tell, like, when it got to the end of that fourth quarter and it was a one-score game, like, you could see the energy on their sideline, probably for the first time that they've had since they started as a team. The belief that, hey, we can actually compete and win games in this league. Like, here we are right here, right now. They just, couldn't finish the job. But
Yeah, I mean, obviously being there. I mean, that was we traveled up there a little light. We had a lot of injuries going into it. But
Here with all the excuses on why it was.
no, when we came into the game, and I mean, they came down the field and they punched us in the mouth. It was that simple. I mean, we were not expecting that, to be honest. You didn't see number 10 on film for the last like 2 weeks, I think it was. So it's hard to prepare for somebody that you've seen for the classic, and I think one game after that. But the guy's an athlete, man. He's fast. He's real fast. And if you do not contain those edges, he's going to make you pay. But I mean, they came down, they scored, we answered right back. And then, I mean, their energy the whole game was there. They came into the game with, intentions to win, and it just didn't fall their way. I mean, we played sloppy. They played, from what I've seen, they played their best game of the year. I mean, they have athletes. 23 is a hell of an athlete. He made plays for them last year too. Number 1, Speed. I'm pretty sure he played for the Thunder at one point.
yeah,
That guy's an athlete as well. I mean, if they can pick up some O-line pieces, they're definitely I'm not going to say a crazy contender, but they pick up some O-line pieces. They have the athletes to make plays. They just don't have anything up front on both sides of the ball, really.
I remember.
I just want to hold on before you go on, James. I need to get this out. So last week during our episode, some people were offended about what we said about the nightmare. Now, fast forward 7 days, not even 7 days, 5 days, and you go on the road to essentially a first-year team, and literally we're, one play away from losing the game. But we got a bunch of shit because we didn't feel like you guys were contenders for the playoffs.
So you're gonna have the people.
Saying, so what I'm trying to ask is, was it feelings, or did you really feel like we just lowballed the shit out of you guys?
So when it comes down to,
because I'm saying the only upper echelon team that you guys played this year waxed that ass.
Yes and no.
So
I mean, I played in that game, so I can debate that. I mean, but you're always going to have, as a team, you're going to have, in the head that you're the best, and it doesn't matter if you're the worst or the top. You're going to feel that way, and not so on paper. You look at it on paper, you're like, oh well, who are these guys? I mean, when we click and we're good, we have spurts. If we can block, that's really what it comes down to. If we could block and we can get pressure on defense, we have athletes. I still think genuinely, the way our schedule plays out, we're definitely can win a couple of these next couple games coming up. We just have to show up. I'm not going to sit here and say we're a playoff team. I'm not going to sit here and say we're a championship
team. And that's all we were getting at last week is the fact that you guys are going to have the opportunity to prove your worth. You might not agree with what we said, but you're going to have the opportunity to prove it.
We operate our own vehicle here. Either we go forward or we sit at a standstill, and it's just that simple. We have spurts where we're doing phenomenal, and then we have spurts where it's like, what's going on? Like this past Saturday, we did a lot of arguing on the sideline. We just weren't clicking. It was that's the second time this season we drove 4 hours. It was,
that's true.
Not to blame anybody, but we had some ref issues. Tempers were flaring early, and we just were butting heads with each other. I mean, we came together when it mattered, but we definitely could turn some heads. I stick more of the playing aspect than the talking aspect. So I'm a bad person to ask that question to. But we'll see. I mean,
well, here's my take. Here's my take on it all. You guys have on paper a pretty good roster. You're adding more pieces as well, but
doing it the right way too, by the way.
Yeah, you beat the Titans,
Nobody's are doing it the right way.
you beat the Crusaders, and you beat the Miners. Anybody in their right mind that knew anything about the GEFA would have already chalked them up as a win.
Yeah.
And last week, people were saying that, and you guys were like, "Oh, the Throat podcast, all this other stuff." Like, you won the games you were supposed to win, and then you go against a game that really could have stepped you guys up. You won against an 0-2 Warriors, and then you guys got beat, and then you're blaming the podcast for being a Throat podcast for
So
calling what it is.
you can go either way you want to say it. So you could say, "Oh my God, you played week 1, and then you seen the Warriors week 2." We did not play a football game week 1. Okay, we drove 5 hours to go up there to play on 20 yards with a field with mud that came up to my kneecaps, and in a scrimmage type game. There was nothing to it. It was actually horrible. Probably the worst game I've ever played in my life. Um, and then we go into a Warriors team who just took 2 losses to 2 top teams, and it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. It wasn't going to be like that. We didn't have no scrimmages, we got no looks all offseason. We kept everything in house, and did that bite us in the ass? Yeah, you could say that, but if you watch that Warriors game, it really wasn't you of an ass kicking like you would say so. I mean, they scored 18 in the first, and then 6 in the and then 6 in the third, and then 6 in the fourth.
It just showed that you guys weren't ready for that game.
We were not ready up front for it. Our quarterback,
and it really didn't count.
our quarterback blew his hamstring out against the Titans. Tried to play the Warriors game. The next day, found out that he tore his PCL and his hamstring week 1, and tried to play on it for the whole first half of the Warriors game. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't know the severity of it. We gave them the opportunity, but at the end of the day, they beat us, and that's just that simple. We are on to the Raptors. There's nothing else you can say about it or do about it. But to say that we're not a contender playoff wise, you could sit there, you could say that, you could say, oh well, they've only beat these teams, but at the end of the day, we're 3-1. It's that simple.
I think at the time though, like we're talking present time, and I mean, there's not a whole lot of groundwork that's been laid by you guys that says, hey, they can go out there and beat the teams that they're going to need to beat to be in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like the Warriors, like Mova, like the Wildcats, like the Buffalo, all these teams that you guys are going to have to play coming down the road. Like, that's the thing. That's a crazy thing about the league this year with everybody playing everybody.
Well, we get our strong test now.
There will be no debate.
So our schedule in the beginning was, lackluster besides the Warriors game in there wasn't really. I got the schedule and I looked at it. I said, all right, well, we have a competitive game week 2. We should be 3-1, 4-0 going into the Raptors. That's how we looked at it when we got it. No disrespect to the Titans, Miners, and Crusaders, but that's how we looked at it. Now we hit our long stretch. I think we go Raptors, Buffaloes, Mova, or Raptors, Buffaloes, Wildcats. I mean, and that's what's going to tell. I mean, I can sit here on this podcast and talk about my guys all day. But, you know what I mean? But that's where it's going to tell. I mean, now it's time to put up. I mean, it's that simple. We had the easy games to see what flows and what works. We nitpicked. We took things from this game and this game and this game, and now we put it together. And now we go see a Raptors team. But we'll get into that in a minute here.
Couple minutes. All right. Enough about this one.
So, well, before we move on, Josh, you were the only one that's on the podcast that was out there. Talk about what Jace had set up for Mental Health Awareness Week. I don't want to go on continuing the podcast without touching base, because from what I've seen and what I heard, it was awesome. So shout out to Jason the Miners for doing that.
Yeah, it was definitely great. I mean, we circled up afterwards, and he mentioned it. He said that I'm pretty sure he has a couple of buddies that I think passed away, and on that team passed away due to mental health. I'm not going to speak personal on myself, but Billy does know mental health sits real deep in with me from a personal standpoint. So just to see somebody put the time and effort to do it, and actually care about doing something, and not looking at it as oh well, it's just something on paper and we'll just have a moment of silence. It was definitely real nice. I know my owner and my head coach as well. Mental health is real big to them as well. So just to be able to play a game, where emotions rise and then at the end of the day to come together and to just be for one mutual thing, it's different, and that's, I think, a great building block for the GFA. I mean, if we could do something like that all the time in every way, it speaks volumes. It gets people interested in what we do, and we're not just out here smashing each other in the mouth for 4 quarters and then going home and you know, not recognizing the things in life that genuinely happen on a day-to-day basis.
Right. So, I mean, Brent, former VP and, all-time winningest coach. I'd like to hear what you and Simerson have to say when you see something like that and what it does for the league as well. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, we as a league, we instituted stuff like this years ago about teams getting more involved with their community, getting involved with things like that. I know the Cyclones, we always used to work with Breast Cancer Coalition down here in Lancaster. Every year we had a game, we would raise money, we donate to them. Like, I mean, that's exactly what our league needs to be about. Like, in order for us to grow, we have to have the community be involved. We have to have the community back us. All the teams live in an area that has to have support. Like, you can't physically run a football team and not have the support of community. What are you going to do with it? Nothing. Eventually that owner's going to dry up and he's just going to, be done with it. Like, that's what we want for the league to grow and get more notoriety. Is the best way to do it is through causes like that. Like, and that's awesome that Jace did that, and the miners took it to that level and really, really threw down on the event and on the whole thing. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. Like, I mean, I know the McNulty's, like, they've always been that way. So I know just the charitable stuff in general is big for them. So I'm not surprised at all that that they were fully involved and invested in the whole situation as well. Like, it's just great. It's what this league's about. We need more of that. We need owners to do more of that. We need not just the owners but the players themselves. Like, the more you guys get your face out there, the more you guys become involved in your community, the more people want to back you. It also might help take the burden off of your season. So, things to think about for other teams that aren't doing that right
Yeah.
now. Every team needs to get the community behind them to be stable. I said that for years, and I feel like there's still a lot of teams that don't do that in their communities and get that support. I know with the Shock, we always did Toys for Tots. We always try to get teams involved with it. Whether it be a jamboree or I think like 3 years in a row was Shock and Cyclones gathering Christmas gifts and all that stuff. The leagues, yep, get involved with the Special Olympics. We're helping out with that. We're also looking in to teaming up with Big Brother, Big Sister. So it's the league itself is getting out there, but the teams need to get out there as well. And I think the Miners, Nightmare, teams like that, even I think the Mustangs are doing stuff. I think the Comanche are doing a clinic with the kids. Buffaloes did a clinic with the kids. Like that's to me, that's big. It's the more eyes you have on your product, your brand, the more people that are going to be there to support it.
I mean, even with that,
do it.
Yeah, even with that, I mean, you look at the GFA now and you say, well, there's people and you have teams with 40-man rosters. And, what happens 6-7 years from now when everybody's old? You need these other kids that don't get the opportunity to play college ball. And, you know what I mean? To be able to say, you know what, I can continue to play the game that I love. And I can say I could play for this team because when I was growing up, they were doing this and they were involved. and it's real big. I mean, I'm real big into the youth, so to see teams reach out and do for their community is more than football, and that's what it needs to be.
Yep, youth sports is the future.
Anything else on this?
Nope.
So let's get into the big game that happened. Comanche travel to the Mustangs and win in fashion on the last play of the game, 25-24.
Yeah, great game.
Sounds like it. Didn't get to see it.
So before I even dive into the game, not to put their business out there, I'm sure you guys have already heard. Their quarterback, London, it looked from our sideline like a non-contact injury. I heard rumors that he was telling his teammates that his hamstring popped or something along those lines, and from watching football, man, you hear the term non-contact injury,
Yeah, that's
and
scary.
it hurts. It hurts, right? So, it was what we expected it to be. We expected a dogfight. Never in my wildest dreams can I have imagined losing the way we did. But hats off to Comanche. They came in light for numerous reasons. Their coaching staff outcoached mine. End of story. So
They got up 2 scores. They got up 2 scores on you guys early. From what I saw, I was watching the scoreboard. I didn't get to see the game, but from what I saw, they were up. Well, I think 12-0 quick, 13-0, something like that. And then you guys rolled off like what, 3 scores in a row?
Yeah, we missed Matt Wise wide open downfield. When I tell you this man was open for about 20 yards and we just missed him, I mean, you're shooting yourself in the foot at that point, right? But so we had our chances. I'm not saying we didn't. But we had the ball. Time management was critical in that first half.
Yep.
And we got the ball back a couple minutes to go. We're driving, and we failed. Miscommunication from my end to the quarterback and stuff.
But you could do it to me.
And yeah, time ran out as we lost the fumble. So that ended the first half. We were at the 2-yard line, 3-yard line. So there's more points that aren't going up on the scoreboard. Emotions started right then and there. We got the ball to open the second half. Mensa 5 yards deep in the end zone, returned it to the house for a touchdown. We failed on another conversion, so it's 13-12. And then it was just dogfight. We ended up taking the lead 18-13. We pitched a shutout in the second and third quarter. They took the lead 19-18 in the fourth. We scored with, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes to go. On a beautiful catch by Davion Reeves, head topped. I'm not even sure who he head topped. 24-19. We ended up getting the ball back. We couldn't ice the game. It's not like we can go in victory formation and end it. We ended up giving them the ball back with.
Yeah, I heard there was some questionable play calling down the stretch.
Yeah, let's touch on that.
No. First off, let's put that to bed right now, and I will take full ownership for that. But when I call a dive, and somehow my ball carrier gets all the way up to the sidelines, somebody fucked up. that comes down to me coaching again. This is what I was talking about on the reel.
I mean, I
Like,
agree, but everybody's got to understand clock management in that situation. And just because you get to the sideline doesn't mean you got to go out of bounds, man. You got to know that we don't need yards. We need to make sure the clock continues to run.
You have
So
a
it's
veteran in the backfield,
like
don't you?
you run out of bounds. I mean, that's essentially a timeout for the Comanche. That's essentially giving them the ball back, and clearly they only needed one play. We'll get to that in a couple minutes.
So
we
my
don't have
question
to.
is did London go down before or after the first 13 points?
After.
So they were up 13 and then he got hurt.
Yes.
Okay.
Who finished the game at quarterback?
I believe he was a rookie. They did run Larry Wingo for a little bit. Wasn't able to really get anything going. Number 10 stepped in. Hats off to him. Monk's going to have his hands full with that kid. He seemed like a little bit of a loose cannon. But, if that's his first time stepping into a GEFA environment and you feel like you just let your team down, I could imagine that's a natural reaction.
You got to have tough skin first game. When the first time you step on a GEFA field, you got to have tough skin, man. You have to.
You can't. You could tell somebody till you're blue in the face, but until they go through it themselves, doesn't matter what you told them because everyone thinks they know.
Yep.
Right. But no, I mean, they came in and he extended some plays, picked up some yards with his feet, picked up a couple, moved the chains once or twice. Kid's got talent. But I mean, that was as close to a playoff feel that you're going to have in a regular season to come off the pine and do what he did. Hats off to number 10.
I mean, it's 100% a playoff game. It's 100% a playoff game.
I mean, I knew going into this game it would be a good game. I mean, I played on that defense last year. A lot of those are my guys, man. A lot of them can play ball. So I knew going into the game that it wasn't going to be no 40, 50-point game. Defense was going to take over at some point, and that's really what happened. I mean, 25-24 in a GEFA contest is pretty low scoring. I mean,
yeah, and I mean, neither of these teams really have shown explosive offense, and we know they're both defenses are pretty solid defenses. So, I think everybody kind of expected it to be low scoring, at least low scoring for GEFA standards. Like 25-24 is pretty low scoring for GEFA standards.
Yeah. I mean, I watched some of the live. Somebody went live, and I was watching it on my way home from the minors. And I mean, it looked physical. I mean, going in playing the Comanche, you have Dieter, you have Carl. I mean, you have these guys that if you do not block them, they will single-handedly shut the game down, and there's nothing you could do. And up front, Hazleton, they did a good job containing them. But it went to the other side too. I mean, the other line, Hazleton's D line's no joke as well. I mean, they got some dogs over there too, and it seemed like a stalemate. You can say they scored here and there, but now we got to get into the juicy part. Yeah. Stalemate till one play left in the game.
Yeah.
And we're not playing a prevent, nothing over our heads.
I got questions, man. Legit too, because I hear this is absolutely the last play. Like this is like an untimed down. Like apparently there was a penalty or something that gave them an extra play.
Bro, we're not going to talk about that because I like my head official too much, but we'll get into that too.
But I'm just saying that's the story that I've heard. That was speculated. So you legit last play of the game. They're 20 yards out. They have to take a shot at the end zone to win this game. How in the hell do you get beat? Do you even remotely allow a receiver to get behind you in any capacity? There should have been 3 dudes starting on the goal line for that defense to make sure that didn't happen. Like, that's terrible. That's terrible football. 100% terrible football. That's terrible play. That's terrible coaching. 100%. You cannot allow that to happen in that situation. You can let that quarterback have 3 fucking days to throw the ball. As long as that ball does not cross that goal line, it does not matter. He can run all over that field. for an hour as long as the ball doesn't cross the white line. You did the one thing that you couldn't do, and that was allow a man to get behind you and not just like that dude's an athlete. That I'm pretty sure that was Wingo, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So you let not just anybody, you let a pretty talented football player basically just run right through the middle of the defense for 6 points. Like as a safety, considered one of the better safeties of the league. You can't let that happen. That is your sole responsibility on that play, is to not let nobody get behind you. And that man ran right past you and the DB that was covering him. It's just unacceptable, man. That's the difference between championship football teams and not.
It's a storybook, though. You look at it, 2 weeks ago, they go in, the Raptors go up there and they beat the Raptors, and that guy plays quarterback, receiver, running back, and then he wins the game, last play of the game for the Comanche. You know, you could say coaching, you could say timeouts, and you could say we weren't prepared. But at the end of the day, your veteran leadership needs to take over and say, listen, let them catch the ball at the 10-yard line. We don't care.
Right. Anything underneath is okay. Doesn't matter. Anything that's within front of that goal line, all you do is rally and tackle. They teach you that shit in Pee Wee football. Nobody gets behind you. Last play of the game, up by score. Nobody gets behind you. Rally and tackle. That's it. That's all you got to do. There is no excuse for that. I'm sorry. There's absolutely zero excuse. Rush 2 fucking guys if you have to. Excuse my language. Like, put an extra guy out there to cover. Put the tallest guy you got on your team as the safety. You got to do your
that was actually
out there.
That was my defensive coordinator's plan, was to have a 2-man line, drop everybody back, and then we quick hurried when we realized London's back in there to apply pressure, and they only went out with 3 receivers, which makes it even worse. Yeah.
Well, because they knew that they had to give him time to throw that ball, knowing he wasn't mobile. So they knew, hey, he's going to take a straight drop, give him 2 seconds to let the dude run down the field, because obviously most defenses are not playing any kind of press in that coverage, even if you do have 3 guys over the top. Like, you still playing all coverage, so he's getting a free release. Like, and at the end of the day, in their mind, they only need to give it 2 seconds to be able to just chuck one up for grabs.
And at the end of the day, London could throw the ball 80 yards off his back foot. So, coming in, he says, give me 3 seconds and I'm getting the ball gun. So why send the pressure when you could drop everybody back? Because even if he rolls, I would rather him roll and throw the ball if he hurt his hamstring.
I'm not against the 3-man. I'm not against even sending a blitz in that situation. It just comes down to solid secondary and coaching. Like, if you have a timeout, you absolutely burn it, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And you look at your deep guys and you tell them, absolutely nobody gets over the top. Nobody. You are the deepest man on the field for a reason. And that's it, plain and simple.
So, Billy, what happened?
That's not what happened.
Mustangs head coach let the Mustangs down. I took those timeouts home with me. I didn't call. As much as I'd like to sit here and say, I assume that everybody knows what our defensive game calls should be. It wasn't made very crystal clear to my guys, because obviously we didn't do that. So again, we can sit there and say the veterans, the captains, the leaders, the all-stars, all this. We could say all this stuff. At the end of the day, this is 1,000% on me. This is and this is something, I honestly, I hope I never am in that situation again. But next time, if it does happen again, I will know, call the timeout, do this, do that, just make sure. I don't care if we rehearsed it for an hour and a half the week before, the week of, the night before, whatever. The timeout needs to be called, and I need to say, listen, we know what we're doing. Cornerback safety, 3 yards into the end zone, nothing behind you, end of story. Okay, cool. I at least make sure that they're all aware of what's going on. I didn't do that. So yeah, we could sit there and say all this stuff. That's 100% on me. I don't give a fuck what anybody else says. Part of my
Lesson
language.
learned, man. Lesson
You
learned.
live and
You
you
know what I mean?
learn. You live and you
Yep.
learn.
If you've never been in that situation, you know what I mean? Obviously, like, you're on the doorstep of a monumental win for you guys. You know what I mean? Like, we all talked about it last week on the podcast. Like, it was going to be if you guys could hold serve at home, it was going to be a huge win for you guys, both for the team and obviously for your season standings and your playoff chances and all that.
I mean,
So,
that's three
it's
times in
just
2 seasons. That's 3 times in 2 years that it came down to the last play of the game or something. I mean, I was with Hazleton last year. It happened with us Buffaloes in overtime. Cyclones when you guys came down. I mean, we fumbled on the 1 yard line, and then this. I mean, that's a terrible way to lose a football game. I mean, emotions are flaring. One play, all we have to do is get a stop, but there has to be somebody with a head that says, "Listen, we need to time out," even if we don't have any, asking, because they'll tell you we don't have any. You know what I
just gotta
mean?
know that, hey man, nobody can get deeper than me. Like, you're leading the
Yeah.
game. You're like, in those other instances, you guys were trailing, you're trying to score to tie the game or take the lead to win it. You know what I mean? In this instant, they were leading. Like, you hold all the cards at that point. They know that they have to go 20 yards on a 30-yard wide field that doesn't have a whole lot of room with 5 guys in coverage against 3 wide receivers. If you bring in 3 guys on the pressure, so like, you're outnumbered. Like it's just easy pickings.
Yeah. So I got one other question pertaining to
You
this
just
game.
made that simple mistake that you can't ever make in that situation.
So one question before I guess we get on to next week. So that's week 1. You guys took a big loss to the Buffaloes, and then this Saturday you take a big loss to the Comanche. What does that do internally? How are your guys feeling of the fact that the 2 big games that realistically you go in with a head that you could win, and you come out, especially this week, with losing a game the way you did? I mean, you guys battled. I mean, I watched the stream. That it wasn't a one-sided game, and you guys came back and missed it by one play. It was a dogfight. But how are you guys handling that internally? Like, how are your emotions after that?
Well, emotions are going to run high. We're chalking it up to the 24-hour rule, but my message to my guys was very crystal clear. You can sit here and Duke got flagged for the penalty that gave them the untimed possession, and he was beating himself up. And I had a 20-minute conversation with him when I put the film there. And listen, at the end of the day, there's not a coaching curve there. I'm going to tell Duke to do exactly what he did. And unfortunately, when that comes out, people are going to be like, "No, that's crazy."
I heard there was a controversial call, so I don't know what it was, but I heard it was controversial. I haven't talked to any of my guys from over there yet. I kind of been busy since Saturday, but I heard it was controversial. So I don't want to talk about it because that we could have probably an hour conversation on what could have happened if that didn't happen.
Bro, both sides. I will tell you this: both sidelines accepted that the game was over. Monk was telling his guys to line up. I was celebrating, in turn, also getting my guys to line up. I thought we won that big one. That was my signature win. There was not a fucking flag on the field. Not a flag on the field.
So what the hell was the penalty?
I heard it was excessive celebration.
What?
No.
What?
No.
Late hit on the quarterback. Listen, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Comanche. I'm not trying to dog my refs. I'm not trying to make excuses. But I would be willing to bet. Well, no, I mean, I would be willing to bet that if every officiating crew in this league, if they watch that clip, what do you see? And they're going to say, game over. 90% of them would. And I talked to my head official about it, and I still right now give my refs a good score. They talked about it, they huddled, they said, hey, I got this, I got this. Bro, if that's what you got, I will accept that. But if that's what you got, there's no reason the flag should not have been thrown on the field. End of story. You're not going to convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Flag's not on the field. Now you're trying to tell a bunch of grown ass individuals, stop celebrating your signature win. Get to your sideline. You're looking at the Comanche and say, you know, take the frown off your face. You still got life. You still got one play. That is absurd.
Yeah.
James seen the film? James, I don't know. I mean, you seen the film?
Where's the film? I want to see it.
Well,
I saw the film.
James seen the clip, right?
But
So
here's the thing, though. It should have never got to that point. When your running backs are running out of bounds, stopping the clock when you should be closing the game out, that play doesn't even get to that point.
So here, right? You can sit there and say what ifs all day.
Was it or was it not?
The quarterback. I do not care. You cannot sit there in that environment and that situation in the game. If you're not calling that flag consistently all game, that flag cannot come out with 0 seconds on the clock to give a team a free play. Can't happen.
Being a football player and have played for a long time and coaching youth and seeing a lot of flags, unfortunately, that's not how it works, and we all know that. They won't throw something all game when they throw it at the end, or they'll throw it in the beginning. Same thing happens at the end of the game, and they don't throw it. You just got to chuck it up, unfortunately.
And I already have. But now that we're having that conversation, like let's have that conversation, right? Should we have gotten to that point? No, the Comanche shouldn't have even got the ball gotten the ball back. Number one, they did. Okay, so we talked about it. What happened? Whatever happened, happened. Now you're talking about the plays that led up to that, and I promise you, Josh, you can sit here and say whatever you want and laugh at me and my organization. I'm okay with that. I don't care.
Laughing.
Right? No. But what I'm saying is I can accept all that. But in the situation, there is no way you can throw that flag. There's no way. I do not give a shit.
See, I haven't seen it, so I can't sit here and say that, but I believe you.
Stop getting him pissed off. He already took the hat off.
A cigarette is a brewing.
That's going back on.
But no, like I can't speak on the play because I didn't see it
for a minute.
I didn't see the play, so I can't speak on it. But I mean, honestly, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Okay, Josh. Let's do this, Josh. Let me paint you a picture, okay? Mm-hmm. Since you're playing quarterback now, so you're on the losing end. You just realized that the ball got snapped way past your head. You run and dive on the ball. Clock runs out. You got no timeouts left. There's no way in 4 seconds that you are getting the ref to pick the ball up, set the ball, line your guys up, snap the ball for another play. Okay. You get shoved at your shoulders as you're on the ball. Get up like you're ready to fight. Get yelled at by your center to fake an injury so there's more time on the clock. And then talk the refs into
throwing a now we're faking injuries? Shit, bro.
Dude, there's no way. They're like, there's no way. And again, I am not, listen, here comes the hat again. I am not trying to take credit away from the Comanche. They outcoached us. I've been saying this the entire podcast. I will take 100% blame for the position we're in, for the loss we took. But what I'm saying is, as a owner in this league, as a head coach, as just a football fan in general, I am telling you, there's no way you can throw the flag. There's no way. There's no way, which means the clock should have ran out and we should have continued our celebration, lined up. Good game. It is what it is. Plan on meeting the Comanche later in the playoffs anyways.
I mean, unfortunately, sometimes that's just how things play out. I mean, hopefully I get to see it and, because I totally believe it. When I heard that you guys lost, I was literally taking my pads off, watching a video of this play that happened, the Hail Mary pass that happened, and then a voice recording came through of what happened prior, but it didn't make no sense. Obviously, they're not on the field; they don't know. It was just somebody that was in the stands. So, like,
No,
I knew.
TA football news. Don't even get me started.
No,
That was
no, it wasn't on
100%
them. It was
TA football
literally,
news.
it was a said, like, just I don't even know who it was because it wasn't even my phone. But it was, I heard a recording of like that there was a penalty and whatnot. But unfortunately, like Simerson said, it shouldn't get to there. It got to there. Game's over. We're on to next week.
Yeah, we already are. We're good.
So
We already are.
getting into next week.
Billy, did you take your camera off because you're smoking a Newport?
He don't smoke
Oh,
Newports.
Dumb house.
Next week's games, we'll get this one out of the way.
Billy's house and you see him smoking, they think they got a new pope.
No, see, my blood's boiling already. Like now I'm gonna have to go.
Billy's pacing the house, starting to sweat and shit.
Yo, stop it! You're not.
That blood pressure is way up.
But on to next week.
He's about to tear down that happy birthday sign.
Yeah. We should have 5 games this week. With the Titans no longer being around, Mustangs will get the forfeit win. So with that being said, I guess we'll jump into I think it's the game of winless here. I think we have the Crusaders traveling to the Miners.
Josh, I got a question for you. People want to know, is that brick real?
This? Yeah, that's my front porch.
But the brick is real?
Yeah, this house was built in like 1950.
All right, keep going.
I can't read the comments. I'm not on my computer. But we got the Crusaders traveling to the Miners.
This game, they had a scrimmage earlier in the year, before the season, and both teams kind of struggled. It was muddy, but I keep seeing the Miners improving week to week, and I think this is when they get their first win. I know after they lost to the Titans, they're like, "Oh, at least they're still in the league." But now, from when I talk to players and that from the Miners, they're like, "Oh, we're going to get one," and I think this is going to be the week for them.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, playing the Miners, I mean, from last year to this year to watching them this year, they definitely came a long way. I genuinely think they beat the Crusaders on just pure skill gap. I mean, they have a lot more talent than the Crusaders have on their roster right now. And Miners didn't really do much talking. I mean, here and there towards the end of the game they held their composure. I mean, they're hungry. They're coming off a game that they think they should have won. And now they get to play a Crusaders team who has given up 100+ points in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's tough. And like James said, man, I mean, you can see the Miners are, kind of slowly figuring it out, starting to turn that corner. And, I just think at this point they're just in a better spot than the Crusaders, who are still kind of learning everything week to week. And, I think the Miners get the job done. I say they get this 36-26. 36-26.
Yeah. Nah, the Miners are going off 56-12. I don't see the Crusaders being able to if number 10 plays, man, that kid's an athlete. And if you do not contain and you give him a lane, he will single-handedly take over the game for him.
I don't think it's that lopsided. I think the Miners do enough to win. Especially if the Miners now know that they're allowed to run 2 different defenses in this league. I got the Miners winning 34-18.
Billy, you can't do picks unless your camera's on. So
Come
sorry,
on, he's chain smoking the Newports over there. He can't put his camera on.
put the
No,
chair
Yeah,
back up.
I'm
Stop.
here.
he's trying to bring that BP back down.
Y'all need to relax. Right, that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Look,
Can
he's
you
walking
do
around
more
his
than
kitchen.
that the normal way? You look like
I'm
sloth
pa-
from the Goonies.
I'm
Me?
patient. Y'all leave me alone. I didn't even want to be on here tonight. All right, leave me alone.
Yeah, I didn't get this notification until like 8:15, so I feel that. All right, on to the next. What do we got here? We'll go Wildcats traveling to the Buffalo.
That's game of the week. Do that one last.
Game of the week?
That's
Yeah.
game of the week. You do that one last.
We don't
I
do
was
game
gonna say
of the
we
week
got that
anymore, but
we got
that's
that hell of a schedule that we're throwing Wildcats Buffalo out there a second game. Like, damn.
Listen, I don't. When is
Gonna
there
be a
game of the
hell of a
weeks?
week.
We did that last year, and then we just stopped saying game of the weeks. Here, you want another game? How about you go Comanche traveling to Warriors?
What's the second best game? That's got to be the third
Jeez.
game.
Listen, it's on my list. Go off of it. I'm not saying anything else.
What other games
All right,
are
cool.
there?
There's Nightmare and Raptors.
Go with that one.
That's fine. I don't care. It was on my list. That's how I had it written down from the website.
Terrible.
So Nightmares traveling to the Raptors. Game
This
is
is a
at
5 o'clock
5.
game. 5?
Yes, sir.
Then it'll be live streamed because it's at the Raptors, correct?
Yes, sir.
I think the Raptors have too many questions offensively. Defensively, I mean they're a solid unit. I have this in a real close game. I'm gonna say Nightmare 32, Raptors 28.
Pretty good analysis. I kind of agree. Like I feel like the Raptors really struggle offensively right now. They got a banged up quarterback, offensive line's riddled. I mean, they're struggling. They got some good weapons over there, man. They got some nice running backs. So it's not like they can't do it. But when you can't open holes and pass block, you got no quarterback. Like, I mean, it's just tough sledding. And I don't think the Nightmare are going to come sleeping on this game like they did last week, apparently. So, I think they'll be a little bit more ready to go, a little bit more in tune. Do you know what I mean? So I got Nightmare winning, I'll say 40-32.
I'll agree. I'll say the Nightmare only because the Raptors aren't healthy. If the Raptors were healthy, they win.
Next.
Yeah, you don't get to pick your own game.
Next. even if I was allowed to, I wouldn't pick it. I'm not that guy. I'm not gonna pick it.
Are the Mustangs playing this week, or are they on another bye?
They got the bye.
They have like their 6th bye of the season. They're
Oh my God! No wonder why they go for it on 4th and 13 plus because they barely play.
Trying to get them game reps.
Next game we got Comanche at Warriors.
Ooh, buddy.
I mean,
Hey,
I can
Warriors
go
been
real
playing
quick on this one. If somebody wants to go first, by all means.
Yeah, I will. I got this. Warriors been playing great, man. The last couple weeks, like I said, they should have won their first game of the year. They did. That was a brutal loss for them. They took one on the chin week 2 or week 1 at home, and they kind of took a look in the mirror and said, "Look, we got to get our shit together." And like their defense been balling out, offense needed to get it moving. They're starting to get it oiled up. Everybody on their offense scored touchdowns apparently last week, so. Like they're rolling right now. Comanche, obviously, like hey, they're a perennial championship contending team. Obviously, with the status of their starting quarterback in doubt, with whatever might be happening with him, like that's brutal. I mean, Comanche are, they're kind of a run first team, so it's gonna sting not to have him in there. But Billy said their backup's pretty athletic, young kid. pretty good. So, I mean, I expect it to be a battle, but I think the Warriors, they're not going to let another team come into their house and win, especially in a playoff caliber game. Like, they know they need this one. If they lose this one, like, that's a tough one to take. So, I think the Warriors win this in a battle. I'm going to say 42-38.
I think if London plays and is healthy, hopefully he is, um, it it's tough. The Warriors' O line has played well this year, but they haven't seen a D line besides Mova week 2, So if they can block up front, I think the Warriors can walk away with this. But if London doesn't play, I genuinely think this game can get ugly. You got to be able to score to keep up with the Warriors, especially if they're clicking. I'm going to go Warriors. Oh, boy, 52-38.
I mean, last season they played in a playoff game against each other where I felt the Warriors should have won, but kind of like shut down at halftime. They didn't seem like they were going to be the team that they were the entire season, and it showed. A lot of them had their heads down at halftime. So I think the Warriors are going to want to take this one because they're not going to sit out on this one again. I'm going to say Warriors 26-20.
It's a hard pick, man. If London plays, man, that's a different game.
I don't care who you are. You're even if he played, there's no way he's near 100%.
Well,
no
like
way.
I said, I don't know the injury that you know what I mean? If it's non-contact, anything could happen because it happened to my quarterback week 1.
I'm just saying, it's not like the Comanche passing game has been prolific or anything like that. Like if you watch the Comanche film up to this point in the season, like they are a run-heavy football team. They feed the running backs. They use the quarterback on zone reads and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like they haven't been a prolific passing team to begin with this year. So the Warriors have a solid defense. Like I just I find especially if they don't have London. Like I mean, a guy who's battle tested, you know what I mean? He's been a solid quarterback for 2 or 3 years he's been in this league. Like to throw a rookie in a hostile game like that, you know what I mean, against a team that they pinch slapped in their house last year in the playoff game. Like the Warriors got blood in their mouth for this one. Like they're hungry for this one. Like they going to treat this just like last year's playoff game.
Turnovers can kill the Comanche this week. I mean, London takes care of the ball. He does not make stupid decisions. And
their play calling helps though too. They don't put themselves in bad situations usually. Like they are what they are. They are a well coached, solid team that sticks to their guns. Like they don't give a shit if it's 3rd and 10. If they feel like, hey, we can run the ball right here for 6 or 7 yards, we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They're quite capable of doing that. Like so, it's not like they won't be in this game. I just feel like that when push comes to shove, if London's not healthy, even if he plays and he's not healthy, like that hinders their offensive ability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the Warriors offense at this point in time is really hitting their stride. You know what I mean? They're spreading the ball around. All their guys got their hands in the offense. Like Gary's getting in a good rhythm with them. Their O-line's been playing solid. They run the ball effectively when they have to. Like, I mean, this is going to be just like last week's game against the Mustangs. I feel like it's going to come down to that fourth quarter final drive. And, when the Warriors couldn't deliver last year on that final drive of the game, I feel like this year might be their opportunity to deliver that final drive.
I mean, this is also a big game for them. Doesn't it put them at 500 if they win?
No, they're
That's
3-2 right now.
They're 3-2 right now.
yeah. So they'll be 4-2. Yeah, but
So
essentially, like, they'd be in the. I know there's not conferences this year, but like if we still talk Mountain and Valley, like that would pretty much put them in the driver's seat in the Valley.
Yeah.
Right now, the
yeah,
Comanche hold the driver's seat. So
I
this is essentially
feel
like for the top seed in the Valley. You know what I mean? Like that's how you got to treat it.
yeah, I feel like this game we could talk about the Warriors and uh,
Fix your Wi-Fi.
um,
Internet said no, we don't need to
how
hear
they're playing a lot better.
that.
What the hell was
We can't hear you
I
at
don't
all,
know.
bro.
You cut out. Yeah, you cut out the whole
oh,
time.
really? My fault.
Yeah.
That
Can you hear me
explains
now?
what happened in the last minute of his game.
He just froze. Look, now his blood pressure's up again. Look what you did.
Yeah, you
What
can
is
see
this
the veins
news?
popping out of his forehead.
Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. We can sit there and say that the Warriors are playing better ball. It's against lesser talent. Now, again, they look more like the team that we expected to see. But the games that they lost, however the games played out, was against teams that were able to get after the quarterback and be physical up front. And we know that's one thing the Comanche are going to do. So
True.
that's one thing. We could talk about how good GK is, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to sit back there and go through all of his reads and make all his progressions and put the ball on a rope.
But that's where his
So I don't
mobility
think we're
comes
going to.
in to play a factor in that situation.
Yeah, but I mean, you know better than anybody. Along with that mobility from the quarterback, your quarterback's also taking shots, right? So, um, I think ultimately GK is going to be the best quarterback on the field. The second thing I'm looking at is coaching. I already admitted on this podcast that the Comanche coaching staff outcoached me this past weekend. Did Ant ever get more help? Or is it just him and Dre Moses still?
I think it's just them two.
Because if they got no more help, right. So, if London is there and he's 90% healthy, I'm saying Comanche. But with everything that I know and see right now, it's going to be a dogfight. But I got the Warriors pulling this one out, 40-30.
Yo, James, you foul, bro. You foul, bro.
Who do you got winning? Billy?
What did I miss?
Who
What?
do you got winning?
Don't worry about it. I already said it. Go back and watch the podcast again.
Oh, wow.
All right, move on then.
No, I think that the Warriors win this one, 40-30.
All right.
Good answer, Matt. Anyways, on to the next one. Wildcats traveling to the Buffalo.
The last couple of weeks we've been talking about teams, having that
I'm not answering.
opportunity to state their claim and to, put their stamp on things. This is the week for the Buffaloes to do just that. The last couple of years they've been a pretty dominant team until they've had to play a playoff contender like Nova or Williamsport, and then they've been getting punched in the face. Wildcats they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game now. I think they've had the last 2 weeks off.
Yeah, their
So
last game was the Vikings, wasn't it?
yeah, I'm sure they're more than well prepared, knowing the
They
guys
both
that
had
are
two
on
weeks
that
off.
team. You know, I'm sure they've been hammering the film. They've been strategizing the game plan both sides of the ball. You know, Wildcats can pile up points. I mean, they have the tools. They have all the weapons to do so. You know, Buffalo's defense been playing pretty good this year, but they haven't really played against an offense that's like that. I mean, you got stud wide receivers across the board on that team. You got a solid quarterback that's been a veteran quarterback in this league for years, playing for the Hitmen. You know what I mean? And the Buffalo's been dominating on offense. I think they average the most points per game right now. They're at like what 60 some, 70 some points a game. I mean, they out here rolling teams, but this is their week to come out here and state the claim. I'm gonna go Buffaloes 45-42.
Yeah, this one's tricky. I mean, if you look, it the Buffaloes are hard to prepare for. You can watch all the film you want. You can practice and try to run what they run all you want. They will run that read option, and it doesn't matter what you think. They'll gain 2 yards off of it and run it for 4 quarters. They don't care. But what makes me, weary about the Buffaloes, if you look week one, I mean, they had what, a 30-point lead, something like that, going into halftime. And once Hazleton started spreading the ball around and getting their speed into space, the Buffaloes defense, they struggled a little bit.
No, for
You know,
sure. I think that's
and,
always
and
been
the
kind of their
Wildcats,
Achilles
man,
heel.
the Wildcats, that wide receiver room is deep. And if they don't get after
It's
the quarterback
vicious.
and let him sit there and throw the ball, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, I mean, you got Ewok, you got J.R. Taylor, you got LC, you got Jamel Fleming. I mean, you got all stars at 4 or 5 positions on
Yep.
offense. All their wideouts are all stars in this league for years since they've been in this league.
Yep. I think
Like, I
this
mean,
really
Let
it's,
me
comes
ask you a
down.
question.
I just think this is the week. You know, the Buffalo's been preparing for this battle all season, all last. You know what I mean? Like, this
I
is their
mean,
time.
yeah.
This is
Yeah,
their
well, you
time to
said
go
it.
out there and say, look, we are one of these. We are one of these upper tier teams. We belong in the talk with Nova and Williamsport and the Comanche and the Warriors. We deserve to be in that conversation.
Well, I mean, even if you look at it, you go back and say, well, the Comanche beat the Warriors last year in the playoffs. Look what the Wildcats did to the Buffaloes in the playoffs.
Yeah,
They're not coming into this game forgetting about that. I genuinely think this game comes down to gap assignments for the Wildcats. I got the Buffaloes, 50-38. They run the clock out at the end of the game.
it's both defenses. Both offenses are potent. It's going to
Yep.
be whose defense can make more plays in this game. If Buffalo's can get some interceptions, get some turnovers, you know what I mean, and change the complexion of the game and use that ground and pound style of offense that they bring, I
Yeah.
I think it's them.
I
But
mean,
if they turn the ball over and give Williamsport opportunities, that high flying offense, they're going to put points up on you and they're going to make you
mhm.
pay.
I mean, if you watch the Vikings game when they played, I mean, their tackling was a little suspicious, even, tackling Greg. I mean, Greg's an athlete, but that running back for the Buffaloes, man, he runs like a truck. And
A guy that's not getting talked about for the Buffaloes enough is Ian Valente, man. That kid is a
yeah.
monster.
What's that, number 2, right?
Yeah, that kid is
Yeah.
a monster.
Yeah.
Like,
We all said Buffaloes can't pass, man.
Buffalo's got weapons across the board too. They got a solid quarterback running back combo. They got a solid wide receiver core. Their tight end's pretty solid. Like, they got just as good. That's why I said this game comes down to whose defense can make the plays.
Yep.
Because I think both offenses are going to do what they've been doing, what they're built to do, and that's fucking move the ball, score points. Who's going to make
Yeah.
the mistakes and what team's going to capitalize on those mistakes?
The best part about this is this will probably be live streamed, and this was a 1 o'clock game, so be able to watch it before I play.
I'll be tuned in.
I got, oh boy. I think, Brandon, you're 100% right. This is the Buffs' chance to say, hey, we are the real deal. We're as good as advertised. We're going to prove it. But I think you could say the same thing about the Wildcats, right? You can sit there and on paper you look at their roster and it's like, Jesus, they're loaded. And their only loss this season has been, to the Vikings.
Battle.
And
a battle against MOBA.
Right,
It's
but
not like they
there's
got their
one
shit
thing.
pushed in that game.
Right. Well, I understand that, but there's one thing to take the field against, Medina and Weapons Incorporated versus you probably think that you should beat the Buffaloes every time you step on the field with them. And I think if there's going to be a time that, Aaron Stoner and coaching staff is really going to be tested is going to be, this game if things don't go well.
I feel like anytime an upper level team steps on the field, they feel that way. But I think at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to go in there thinking, "Hey, we're going to just fucking run all over the all over the Buffaloes like we own them." Like I don't think at all they'll come in with that mentality. I think that, from playoff game last year and other games that they played in the regular season, I think they know exactly what they're going to have to do and what it's going to take to win this game. I don't think for any stretch of the imagination they're going to walk in there thinking like, oh, I mean, it's the Buffaloes. We got this. We're going to win this by 30. I don't believe that for a minute. There's way too many veterans on that team to allow that mentality to happen.
Oh, well, it just, again, this goes into what I'm essentially getting at is if this first quarter comes out and the Buffaloes all season have been able to score often and early, and if that happens, the Wildcats were in this position before. Wasn't it against the Warriors in the Classic? They were down 3 scores?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel right now that the Wildcats are the more battle-tested team.
For sure.
But this game is being won by discipline. And when you talk about discipline, that's the Buffaloes. I got the Buffaloes winning 50-46.
Yeah, man, they bought into that, game plan over there in Bedford County. And I tell you what, playing against them, they don't quit. They do not give up. It doesn't matter the score. It doesn't matter nothing. It's 4th and 13, and they're running the ball because they just that's their game plan. But then again, we all said they couldn't pass, and Levi's stats this year say otherwise. So
True story.
I guess this is a game where it could go either way, or it can get ugly either way.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we got. Yeah, there's only 4 games because Mustangs get another bye.
Okay, my fault. I mean, we were supposed to play.
Not your fault. At least you didn't have to travel to them and play with, cones on the field and, about 20-yard field. You know what I mean?
Yo, I heard they rented the cones off of Simerson too. How fucked up is that? Oh, that's what you get, James, for changing my name.
I thought it was kidding.
It's cold.
Yeah, I don't know. It should be a good week though. There's definitely some good games.
Bill, is your hat fitted?
No.
Is that a different hat than you had on before?
No.
You ever see the size of Billy's head? That thing is not fitting his head. Look how small it looks compared to it.
Why the fuck are we on a GEFA podcast talking about the size of my head? I'm just curious. What, like?
Because we talked about the games.
We'll let you go after this.
Yeah, I got clips to send to everybody in the league, so hurry up.
That's it. Anybody else got anything?
On you.
What's that?
Oh, that looks like a kid's hat on you.
Does it? It's
That's
just kind of resting on my head. Yeah, no, it's just resting on my head.
You get a horse head.
Anybody else got anything?
No,
No, I don't.
No,
Gary
sir.
Gary Jasper said it's going to rain.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that update on the
Well,
weather
I don't have to
report.
check my weather app, I guess, you know?
Yeah,
No,
rain.
so it's going to be working good out for the Buffaloes.
Listen, that's a team you don't want to play in mud.
Well, they play on turf, so that's out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're home. They're home. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you also don't want to play them if Simerson's a ref.
Yeah, true. I've been there. We don't want to do that. But
Wow.
Simerson's just doing president stuff. He's not doing any of that no more.
Yeah, because, I blew a 13-point lead for you guys in the fourth quarter. See, it's
Yo,
a
we
recurring
spent the
theme for you guys, it
podcast-
seems to be.
Listen,
Mustangs just can't finish the game
we spent
in the fourth quarter.
We spent the whole podcast talking about my coaching mishaps. I'm not rehashing them from last year as well.
I'm just
up, let me go.
saying, it's a common
Shut
theme
up
that
and
you
let me
guys
go.
just can't hold on the leads in the fourth quarter.
All right, that's it for me. It's 10:30. It's past my bedtime.
Well, yeah, you spent over an hour talking about last week's games.
Well, yeah, they were actual conversations, not people in here talking about, useless stuff.
Yo,
Like,
John, speaking of which,
I think that's a
Simerson
dig
told
at
me you
Danny.
were the
I can't wait to
moderator.
tell him.
What's
You
up?
were the moderator. Not one person read the comments from Facebook. What are we doing here?
well, that's
What are we
because
doing?
Simerson messaged me earlier today, and then I messaged him, and he didn't message me back till like 8:20.
I don't
So,
do anything on the phone.
That's
Well,
called
my phone
collective
at home.
parenting.
Well, I don't have my webcam or anything hooked up to my computer, so I had to go off my phone, or I wouldn't have had a picture, and I didn't want my sound to be all jacked up.
We could have did without the picture because your beard's crooked as all hell.
It's really not.
It is.
It's not. I pay my barber a lot of money. It's not. It's not crooked.
He's robbing you then.
I mean, he might be.
Brent, are you going to any games this weekend?
Me?
Because the Mustangs have another bye, so
I don't
trying to
know.
decide where I'm going.
Wherever
Yeah,
the
we
Vikings go, he's
established
traveling.
that you have another buy already.
Wherever the Vikings go, he's going. Oh wait, so they don't play this week, do they?
No, they're off.
Yeah, he ain't going nowhere.
And I only went to one game all year. That was their first game of the year.
Didn't you travel to Wilkes-Barre?
Yeah. When that was the Vikings' first game of the year
Oh yeah.
because they didn't play the Classic.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next week.
All right, I ain't got
Yeah.
nothing.